Okay, folks, I am Nkenge Harmon Johnson. I'm the Chief Executive Officer and President of the Urban League of Portland. The Urban League is a 77-plus-year-old civil rights and social justice organization right here in Oregon, but we serve all of Oregon and Southwest Washington. That makes us a little bit different from some of our sibling urban leagues. There are more than 70 urban leagues across the country, and we are one of the few that serves a region rather than a city. Our name's the Urban League of Portland. How can that be? Well, you know, Oregon. So more than half the population lives in the Portland metro, of course, so our name is fitting. But our mission is to serve black folks, the needs of black folks and others in the areas of justice and housing and education and all the things that help us to live lives that we choose for ourselves and that allow us to thrive. And that has been the Urban League's mission since its founding. I'm really excited that we do work that allows us to connect community to decision makers. We are able to help connect community to resources that allow them, again, to thrive and live the lives that they choose for themselves and for their families. We're different than many not-for-profit organizations. I tell folks that just happens to be our tax status. It's irrelevant, quite frankly, beyond that. We're a company, and we're not a small one. We have more than 100 employees. We have half a dozen sites, and we operate programs at scale that allow us to help people to live inside of doors, that allow us to help people keep their homes if they're in danger of losing them. We get kiddos in summer camp so they can learn skills and also have fun. We operate a program called Feed the Folks. It's a farmers market that our teens and young adults started last year during the pandemic as a way for them to help give back to their community and to learn about nutrition and to learn about the jobs that come from the land and also to connect folks in the city with the resources and the foods that come from farms. Our name is the Urban League. What are we doing farm stuff? We also operate the only 4-H program in the state that has any sizable number of black kids involved. Part of that's because I'm an Oregon kid. I grew up in Salem and in Portland, and this is very much my community. And I'm proud to say that we used to travel all over the place, my family and I. So I am no stranger to this community, no stranger to Hood River. In fact, my husband and I stay here probably once a year. Pre-pandemic, we haven't been anywhere in like 2 years. But before the pandemic, we were here pretty regularly. It's part of my own goal is to bring more Oregonians to more places across the state, especially folks who look like me, who might not think it's safe to leave the city. There are plenty of folks who worry about going to the Roundup over in Pendleton because they're not quite sure it'll be safe. There are plenty of folks who are worried about going to the Oregon State Fair, which is the best, but they worry about the Confederate flags they see along the way and whether that means they're going to be welcome there. So part of our job as the Urban League is to put our foot down and help create place and let folks know that all of Oregon and Southwest Washington belong to all of us. Our conversation today, though, stems really from some of the interactions that my team at the Urban League has had, and I hope that some of you have had a chance to meet our Urban Leaguers, about some of the things that are happening right here in this community, in Hood River. And we wanted to be able to hear from you live, but also to have this conversation amongst the three of us about shared interest and goals, and beyond that, some of the challenges that we face and what we have to do to come together to surmount those challenges. So that's really what today is about, and I thank you for making time to allow us to spend this time with you. I've introduced myself. Madam Mayor, I'm going to pass you the microphone so that you may do the same, although I don't suppose you're a stranger here.
No, I'm not a stranger. So I was born in Hood River, grew up here, and I know a lot of these faces. A lot of these faces I've known for years and years, and some are new, but I do know quite a few people in the audience. And I've been the mayor since just before the pandemic, September of 2019. So it's kind of been a wild ride. But I was on city council for about 7 years and planning commission for 9 before that. So I was very familiar with what was going on in the city when I became mayor. So, and it's been interesting, and I feel like I've done some good things for the community, and that's some of the things we're going to talk about today.
Thank you. If you would please introduce yourself, Janet.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be back at Rotary. My name is Janet Hamada, and I'm the executive director of a multi-service social service organization called The Next Door. Our organization has been around since 1971. It's a grassroots organization that started listening to concerns of community, and now we have 40 different programs. So we just keep growing and growing. And I moved here in 2004. I'm actually born and raised in Chicago, but my family moved here, my uncle and my grandparents, in the 60s. So this was always my second home. Can you imagine growing up in Chicago and being able to come here for summers? That was pretty cool. So I really do call Hood River home, and I'm very happy to be here today.
Thank you. Thank you both for joining us. I did the opposite. So I'm one of the few cousins in my family who lives in Oregon. The rest of them live on the south side of Chicago. So I'd spend my summers going that way. We've got, Jennifer, you should introduce yourself too, please.
Yeah, so great. This microphone works. Fantastic. My name is Jennifer Parrish Taylor. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm the Director of Advocacy and Public Policy at the Urban League of Portland. I'm super excited, and I'm actually going to be kicking off our conversation with a series of questions. So I'm super excited that we have this panel and curious to see what folks have to say. And so the first question that we'd really like to start with is, in your respective positions, how do you make value-based budgets that lead to value-based policy decision-making? And we'll start with Mary Kay McBride.
Okay. Budgets, always a fun subject. But we actually start with policy first, and then budgets are second. That being said, we wouldn't have a city if we didn't have water and sewer. I mean, if the water didn't come down and we didn't have a sewer treatment plant, we would not be able to have a city. So basics are first, and those are the two main basics that have to come first. We have to keep those going. We have to pay for those. And then we also have to keep our public works, planning, building, fire, police, EMS functioning in order to have a city. So, you know, those are the first things that we fund when it comes to budgets. But secondly, we get to pick some priorities. So our budget is developed by working from our council's strategic plan, which we do prior to budgeting every year. And we also have community surveys prior to that, so we can find out what people think is important. This year, the top 3 items that we picked, besides water and sewer and the things that we have to do, were the Rand Road Affordable Housing Project development, West Side Urban Renewal District, which we're looking into developing that within the next year, and implementing an affordable housing production strategy. And there were numerous other things, but those were the top 3 things that we wanted to put our time and money into after we have just keeping the doors open and keeping the water and sewer going. We hear from residents and visitors and businesses and partners throughout the year. They're informing us on what's going on with them. We're informing them on what we're doing. And those impact what the councilors' decisions are. So we try to listen to the community all year long. Just an example is just this next week, we're going to look at the possibility, we require street trees to be put in when a new development is put in. The developer has to put in sidewalks, and they also have to put in street trees. But a lot of times when those street trees are put in, within a year or 2, if they're not watered regularly, they die. So, you know, we're gonna look at whether the city should be doing that. The city should be getting the trees put in, getting them put in at the right time, the right size, and making sure they're watered in the first 2 years, because that's the critical time. So council's going to be talking about that next week, and that was citizen input, tree committee and citizen input that, you know, we're like, okay, let's take a look at it. I don't know how the council's going to vote. I'm 1 vote out of 7, but that's something we're going to look at.
Thank you.
Well, at the next door, we take our values very seriously. So our values are integrity, just, empowerment, empathy, flexibility, and welcoming. And yes, I memorized them. Actually, we do an orientation with all new hires to make sure that they do a numeric device so that they can remember, mnemonic device so they can remember how to, our values. So that said, everything that we do is based on those We do our performance reviews of our staff based on those, and we do decide whether we're going to continue a program or start a program based on those values. But everything we've done since we've started is because the community has told us that they wanted it. So when we started in 1971, it was concerned citizens getting together to talk about youth who were getting involved in the criminal justice system. We still have that program. It's our therapeutic foster program, or Clare House. In the early 90s, we started a program based on mothers who were interested in supporting other new moms. And we still have that program, a Healthy Families program. In 2002, we merged with a small organization called Nuestra Comunidad Sana, which means Our Healthy Community. And that was started by concerned people who were wanting to make sure that our farm worker community got information about wellness and health. And now it's just a huge program, and I'm very proud of it. And just during COVID, we had 15 new programs start because of our responsiveness with the community, to the community and its needs. So everything that we do is based on values. And it's interesting because I looked at this question in terms of government. And I went to the county and the city websites because I actually don't know the values of the county and the city. And I actually couldn't find them. So maybe the county and the city have values. I mean, I know that they do, and I'm a proponent of government, so I would get that out there first. But I just found that very interesting because ours are, front and center on our website, and so it's a fascinating question. Thank you for it.
Thank you both. I've been president of the Urban League for 7 years now. And the Urban League's main office is in North Portland. I grew up in Portland and in Salem. My middle school is 2 blocks away from where my office is now. So it's very much my neighborhood, my community. But I never imagined that I would run an organization like the Urban League. Well, much like your organization, frankly, like next door, the Urban League we are multifaceted. I say that we are seven organizations in one because we don't just do the one thing. We serve youth and young adults, and that's folks that are, from in utero to age 24. Everything from job training and education, but also fun and health and play. That's part of that program that we offer to our young people. We serve families, and that may be, adults, but it may also be adults with kids. It may be multi-generational. We serve families by the definitions that the families have for themselves. And maybe that means they need support in healthcare. Maybe that means they need support with housing. Maybe it means they need support with a family business. The Urban League is here to support what it is that community needs. But we have a housing department. We've got our youth and education and workforce department. So we help folks get jobs, right? Whether that means working on your resume or learning some of those soft skills and those interview skills. Or maybe it means, frankly, trying to get somebody to let you get a foot in the door to give you an opportunity. So perhaps it means an apprenticeship and helping make it possible for you to actually take that apprenticeship. Those are some of the one-on-one things we do, but we also serve older adults and disabled adults to make sure that they are able to participate in community and to thrive as well. So everything from walks and activities and Tai Chi and yoga. I call it, frankly, an after-school program for elders because they get to do whatever they want. So if that means they want to go to the casino, they go to the casino. If that means they want to take a trip to the gorge, then we find the bus and we take them to the gorge. But it really is a way to help keep older adults active and connected because that's so important for their mental health and wellness. And it's our responsibility to do that kind of case management with them outside, but also inside their homes to make sure that they've got appropriate safety measures inside their own home so they are able to age in place. All this stuff happens under one roof. We operate a homeless shelter. It's the Jami Center, and it's the only African-American-led, African-American-focused shelter for the houseless in our region. We think that there are only 4 of them in the country, which is bananas because the rate of African-American homelessness in Oregon has quadrupled in the past 20 years. But if we didn't do this kind of work, it wouldn't be getting done. So for us, it's a very interesting business to run, quite frankly, and to budget for. And for us, we are in budget season. Folks in the room, how many folks here own businesses? How many folks here have to make payroll, every couple of weeks? Yeah. So me too, right? So the reason that I say our tax status is irrelevant, because I got to do all the same things that the rest of you have to do. I got to make payroll every 2 weeks. Got to make sure my employees have health insurance. We started a 401k program at the Urban League to make sure that we could help folks secure their retirement, and that we could attract and retain the kind of talent we need to do this really hard work. We've got a policy and a civic engagement department that allows us to do things like be in touch with governments, and but also to write, to advocate for legislation, of course, but also to write text of bills themselves. And we've been very successful at connecting community and the needs of community to government. And making sure that the statutes in place, there are statutes in place that serve community, but beyond that, that there is funding behind those statutes to make sure that those things are actually acted upon. So I too am a proponent of government, quite frankly, but I'll tell you something. The Urban League exists because government doesn't do a good enough job serving folks who look like me. That's why we exist. We are the translator, we are the connector, we are the table hammerer, all of those things. To make sure that all folks have access to public resources. So I have community health workers that are in the business of making sure that people can get signed up for health insurance. Well, that's actually something the state and the county does, but they contract with us because they don't do it quite well enough. Right? I run after school programs for kiddos because our schools do not a very good job of educating Black and brown kids. So here we fill in the gaps to make sure that kids can get the kind of education that they ought to be getting from public schools. And by the way, I'm also a big public school proponent, so that's not a hit on them. It's just to explain that our business is the business of filling in gaps. Our business is very much value-based, and at the same time, it's still a business. And we believe in paying people for that work. We do not ask these folks who do this high-touch work, and it's social work, and it's teaching, and it's these other things. We don't ask them to do it for free, because how do you excel in that kind of a model? I don't have a trust fund. I don't know about y'all. So for us, values-based budgeting has a lot to do with the people we serve, right, and the gaps that we need to fill in, and beyond that, the people who do the work. When I took over at the Urban League, I will say that we had someone on staff who was making less than $10 an hour, and that was 7 years ago. I was horrified, mortified, horrified, and frightened. I've never run an organization before. This is my first time, but I knew that wasn't right, and that couldn't stand. We're the organization, one of them, who was part of the coalition to raise the minimum wage. How am I advocating outside of doors to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, and inside I'm paying people $10, $11, $12 an hour? Well, it's all I had, but that doesn't meet my values. So how do we get there? It very much had to do with advocating to make sure that our new contracts with government were paying a fair wage. We are not the low cost, we don't compete on a low cost basis. That's not my goal. We compete on the basis of excellence when it comes to our RFPs. So that folks at the county make whatever wage they make, and well, folks in my building get to make similar wages. At least that's our goal. It's important to us. Housing is not getting any cheaper anywhere in the state, right? Well, people who help other folks to get off the street and become housed, well, they too have their own rent to pay. So we need to make sure that it's possible for them to do so. So we start with the premise that we want excellent folks doing this really high needs, high touch work in our communities. And that costs something. And we're going to do what it takes to raise the money in order to pay them to do that kind of work. Beyond that, I was at, I'll wrap up in a second, Jennifer, but I was at a conference in, my goodness. Oh, it was in Sundance. I was invited, little old me, to a conference in Sundance. And I thought, well, that's cool. They do cool stuff there. And it was talking with folks who were in the arts and culture space, and they wanted to learn more about civil rights and social justice and how artists could be connected to movement and mission like that. And I was learning from them at the same time about how arts and culture activities are funded. Museums, right, orchestras, that sort of thing. And some of we had people coming and talking about the new hospital that was built and the art that was purchased, in these hospital wings to make it welcoming and for patients and for families both. We were talking about universities, the very great architects, who were building these great looking spaces and what that means for education and for community building and inviting folks on campus to really enjoy those spaces. Talking about, I mentioned hospitals, galleries, museums, right? What it costs to build a museum or to build a new wing, and all of these things with these really beautiful spaces and these skylights and windows and shapes and timber and all this stuff. And I thought to myself, man, in my office, we haven't bought new furniture in over a decade. We only get hand-me-down furniture, which is not a bad thing. I'm down with hand-me-downs, but everything we get is already broken. Every computer in here was, a computer that was no good before it ever walked in our door, and we've had it for 4 more years. Why is it that my folks who do this really important, really high touch work don't get to have nice things? Why is it that my clients, my youth, my elders, my houseless folks, my job seekers walk in our building and have this sort of rundown sense? Why is that? When our museums can be beautiful, and our hospitals can be beautiful, and our universities can be beautiful. It changed my brain right then to say, oh, this is a value of mine. This is a value of the organizations. And as we talk to funders, now we want to have a different conversation about, hi, yeah, you got great furniture over the city. We too would like to buy desks. That'd be nice. Hi, yeah, you're one of our funders. We love OSU. You guys are great. And also understand that we're asking you to help fund our capital campaign so that we too can have a great space for our kiddos to be in. You already have the data about what it means for how your brain works when you're in a sunlit space. Well, it applies to us too. So let's behave in that fashion. So I just say that to share with you the things that I am learning about values-based budgeting from someone who has to make payroll all the time, but also who intersects with government pretty regularly about really living our values, both inside of government organizations and outside with those with whom they partner.
Thank you so much for that response. I think in hearing them, there's a theme that's rising of collaboration. And so I guess my question, I think it'd be a good segue into this is, the Gorge is considered a border community. So how do governments, social services, businesses, or the housing economy collaborate across state lines here? And how does that collaboration show up in your respective work? And actually, let's start with Janet. I'd love to get your thinking on this, and then we'll come back to Mayor Kate.
Yeah, thank you. Well, yeah, the Next Door is all about collaboration. We do not do anything. I mentioned we have 40 programs, but every single one of those programs works with about 5 other organizations or businesses or hospitals, you name it, and we're collaborating. And I think there's a couple things I want to talk about here. I mean, that's how we were rooted. We have our office in Hood River. We also have an office in the Dalles in Wasco County. We work in 7 counties, so Hood River, Wasco, Wheeler, Gillum, Sherman, and then Skamania and Klickitat across the river. So we don't see the river as a border. Of course, that means that we have to contract with 2 states, so that's not always fun. But we definitely, and the more we work with our Native American population and neighbors, the more we realize it's just an arbitrary border anyway. I mean, that they grew up on the river, and it's the lifeblood of their community, and it has nothing to do with states. But I also want to talk about something that the Gorge community did about maybe 10, 12 years ago, and we've got Providence in the room. Providence Hospital saw the need to encourage collaboration. And this is something I'm so glad that people are watching this from outside of this community, because I think this is a model that other communities should follow. They funded a collective impact health specialist, basically a community grant writer. And the job of that person, and we happened to find a perfect person in Paul Lindbergh, but that job was to write grant proposals to private foundations, government, federal government, but only if they were collaborative. And so he needed to facilitate community conversation first before even starting on a proposal. And he's brought in tens of millions of dollars, basically, to our small community. And we're recognized as a community, a culture of health community by Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. It's just been an amazing initiative carried out by somebody who takes it very, very seriously and is now looking to expand by bringing on an associate. So he has a sustainability plan as well. But this is it. I mean, when somebody moves into this community, and there's some other social service people in the back of the room, I mean, we all say to them, if you don't collaborate, you're not going to make it here. And when I went to a conference, there was an amazing pastor in the room, and he said, you know what, we just have to check our egos at the door. And that's the bottom line. If the Next Door isn't the right organization to do a program to collaborate, then we need to find the right one that is, And then we need to put all of our weight behind supporting that organization. And I do truly believe, and I've worked in many places, not just in the Gorge. I've worked in Seattle, Miami, Chicago. This is collaboration out here. We really, really take it seriously. And that goes for the government too. On any given week, I'm writing 2 or 3 letters of support for other organizations and the government. So it's pretty great to be out here, and I'm here to help explain what the model is to anybody else. So thank you for that question.
I'll try this microphone. So I'm just going to list some of the things that the city's doing to collaborate. Right now we have a bi-state working group, and eventually it's going to morph into a bi-state bridge authority that we collaborated, and the people that collaborated were the Port of Hood River, the City of Hood River, the City of White Salmon, the City of Bingen, Klickitat County, Hood River County. And we've been meeting for about 2 years. We have gotten legislation through both states that they have agreed on, which was a miracle. But our collaboration, that we are all in this together, we are not fighting like other places are that might get a bridge across the Columbia River, but they just can't quite agree on everything, or not. And so, I think, it just says how we all work together across the river, numerous counties, cities. So, that's one of the ways that the city's working with others. We've been collaborating with Mid-Columbia Community Action Council, Kenny LaPointe in the back there, thank you so much, on a houseless collaborative. And that started a few years ago with Providence Hospital seed money to, look at the houseless issue. And now Mid-Columbia Community Action Council has taken it on, is doing a strategic plan, and both sides of the river are involved, numerous counties are involved, numerous cities are involved. So I think that, just ask, and someone from these organizations will raise their hands. People are so wanting to collaborate here to make things happen, and we are making things happen. I think recently we did the affordable housing strategy, and we had employers on that committee, employees on that committee, we had social services on that committee, and I passed out a paper I left at all the tables, and it's got these different bubbles on it, and that is straight from our affordable housing strategy 100-page document or something like that. And it shows all the things that we have done, starting at the bottom, over the years, and the things that we hope and plan to do are up towards the top. So just so you can kind of see what we've done and what we plan on doing. But that took a lot of collaboration with other groups and with the public. Recently, Mid-Columbia Community Action Council was granted, as a pilot program, $1 million to help implement programs for the houseless, such as mental health and substance abuse counseling, transitioning from pallet housing to permanent shelters. And there's numerous pilots all over the state, but we have one here, and Councilman Gladys Rivera from One Community Health is on that group. And there's another group, the League of Oregon Cities and the Oregon Mayors Association, who recently have said, we need to make this permanent. This money that's coming down the pipe now, that's a pilot, we need to figure out how we can make this permanent. And so I have, and also the Mayor of the Dalles have volunteered to be on a committee to try and get this through the legislature for at least another year or two, and hopefully eventually to make it permanent, so that we can take care of some of these issues that are happening. But it wouldn't happen without collaboration. I mean, it just wouldn't happen.
Mayor McBride, it's helpful for me to hear both of you talk about collaboration, because that, frankly, that is another of the Urban League's values. My rule is sort of, we don't do anything that someone else is already doing well, because that would be an ego trip. right? Or that looks super fun, we'd love to be involved in that. Or that's the trend, that's the fashion, that's where funders are throwing money at, so we'll, do that. We also don't chase money. That's a new rule, and it's a really hard one in my sector. But we allow folks to invest in what we're already doing. I want to say that, let me spend just a second talking about that. As someone who is in the nonprofit sector, we write grants and we write grants and we write applications for funding, and we talk to funders and we talk to foundations and we talk to all these folks. Please give us money to do good things with it. And they'll say, hey, we really want to fund this type of projects. It's saving turtles from at the road crossing. Well, there's turtles in North Portland. There are turtles in Woodburn. We work in Woodburn and North Portland, and we can figure out a way to get our hands on that money and maybe do something good with it. That's not really our lane, right? It's not really something that would naturally be part of the work that we wanted to do, but it's a lot of money. And if I do that project, I could use that money to employ these people while we wait on the next money for the next project. It's always sort of this shell game for us in trying to keep our operations going. But because I come from a different sort of background, and my brain doesn't work like that. It was going to melt. What do you mean? I got asked for the same $10,000 every year? Racism's not over and people are still homeless. Give me the money so I can go back to work, right? I got payroll to meet, and you're not going to decide on this thing until next quarter. What do I do in the meantime? Well, I've got this person who is already serving homeless people. That does not feel like partnership to me. So we had to change the dynamic, which was to say, we're going to do these good things, and we hope that is sexy enough that folks will want to come and invest in the good things that we were doing. Happy to share the data, happy to share the results, happy to let you come in and join what we're doing, but we're not going to chase your total project, because that sounds cool, and I hope someone does that because love turtles, but that's not what we have prioritized. What our community has said are its greatest needs. And if the Urban League is anything, it is a fulfiller of the community's needs and wants. That's been important for us, and that defines true collaboration. Those folks who show up to work on that basis, as opposed to those folks who show up and say, well, we're only going to pay for this because we are the smart people in the room and we decided that's what should happen. No, not so much. We can't solve problems that way, not really. The other bit for us, quite frankly, when it comes to working together, we very much are about working together with community. Not telling folks what they want and what's good for them, but rather asking what they want and what would help them reach their dreams. Some folks think, well, that's kind of a weird way to go about it, but not really. That's frankly the American dream, and it's really the Oregon way. But being able to operationalize that for people who have been marginalized, for people who aren't part of the good old boys or the cronies, or didn't go to the right school, or don't have the right connections, being able to operationalize that for them is really an important part of the work that we do. I think for us, when we have the opportunity to open a door for another organization, or to stand side by side with another organization to say, listen, we really love what you're doing. How can we help? Oh, we can stand here and repeat what you were saying? Great, I'm happy to do that. We're already in this room and you're trying to get in that door? Well, come on in, sit next to us. That is one of the ways that we're able to collaborate to sort of create exponential results and impact. And when working with government, it's pretty crucial that policymakers, decision makers, are hearing the same message from multiple groups. So I will give you this example, Jennifer, and then folks, there's some folks I want to introduce to you. Gentrification was hitting North and Northeast Portland back when I was in high school. There were realtors coming around, knocking on doors, saying, hey, nice house you got here, you want to sell it? Wait, what? Wow, but no, thanks. Or maybe yes, thanks. And as that train started to roll more quickly and roll forward, we started to see the ramifications of displacement. Now, sometimes it's a great win. You and your family are able to sell a home that you've got lots of equity in and go and do something else with it. That's a win. Other times, not so much. Other times, you've been renting for 20 years. I can't tell you the number of friends that I have who lived in homes on the same street that my parents had, had a home. And I always assumed they own their homes like my parents owned our home. Oh, they were renting for 20 years. Is that why y'all, when I come back from college, your mom's not there anymore? Wait, didn't your grandmother used to live next to the church where she was renting for 30 years, and now this property is worth something, and her landlord says, hey, I'm selling it, and you get out. Man. So she's not close to her church anymore. She's not close to her neighbors anymore. She's not close to her pharmacist anymore. Her community is now someplace entirely different. Or is it community at all? That's pretty rough. But that's what we started to see happening, and we've got data on the health and the ramifications of all of that, and just sort of disintegration of community and a little bit of a society when that happens. But it's only happening in North Portland. It's happening to those people. But the Urban League is ringing the alarm, saying, "Hey, we think this is a problem. It's a problem. It's a problem." Fast forward. I just told you that in the past 20 years, homeless rates for Black folks have quadrupled in this state. Well, now we're talking about affordable housing in Hood River. Now we're talking about displacement in Hood River. Now we're talking about gentrification in Aurora and in Hillsborough. Now we're talking about displacement and gentrification in Medford, right? Now it's an issue all across the state. And part of me says, oh, okay, great. Now we're all in the same boat. Now people who grew up here, who lived here, I know a mayor whose kid won't move back from New York because she's like, Dad, my rent in Brooklyn is the same as it would be back home. Her dad's the mayor. Okay, great, because now the mayor wants to talk to the Urban League about affordable housing. But when it was those people's problem, not so much, right? When it's the fault of those people who are just too lazy to get up and figure out how to pay rent, not my problem. Now, though, it's a statewide problem, and we've got everyone in the legislature, doesn't matter you're a D, you're an R, you're unaffiliated, you're an I, you're a Green, who want to have this conversation in a way that's really important, that allows us to collaborate. And Providence is in the game, and there are other corporations that are in the game in a way that they can now understand how this basic societal need for housing impacts their bottom line and the vision that we have for our community. What my hope would be, quite frankly, is that we don't have to bottom out in this way in order to find ways to collaborate with one another. It doesn't have to be your kid who won't move home because they can't afford it, for you to understand that this is something that we should work on. So when our mayor says, hey, let's pay attention to this, it shouldn't have to be an issue that is an emergency for us to be able to come together, to work together. But when it happens, frankly, we seize upon those moments in order to try to create something good for all of us. So I will shift gears for a moment. As we have, so this morning, I was fortunate enough to visit a community organization out this way. And they're folks that I've known about their work for quite some time. We've been in some of the same rooms together. But I mentioned I've been shut in for the past 2.5 years. So have not been seeing folks live, but was really eager to visit this community-based organization. And when we have these town halls, it's important that we highlight folks from the area to talk about their work, so that you can learn more about the people who are frankly right outside your front door, and that you might want to become more involved with to support your values and to grow your community in a way that really is respectful of your neighbors, but also helps you to create something that you believe in. So, if I may, at this time, Jennifer, that's cool? Okay. Let's talk about Mudbone Grown Farms. Mudbone Grown Farms out of Corbett. They train farmers to build their own agribusinesses and provide nutritious or low-cost produce to low-income Oregonians. I'd like to welcome Chante and Arthur to speak more about the work they do and how folks, if interested, can support that work. I spent some time out on one of their farms this morning, and it was amazing to see the beans and the potatoes and the herbs, the hydroponics that they got built up. I couldn't believe we're on well water, that they're on city water for this 19 acres of farm. I learned a ton of stuff. But really the bottom line is that they are bringing folks to the land, people who have an interest in agriculture and farming, and giving them tools. They have got apprenticeships to help folks learn. They're bringing youth out to learn about the ways that you can have a career and a future in this work. And it's amazing work. It's very exciting work. And I'll stop talking about it so you can talk about it for yourselves for a minute or two if you would like.
Awesome. Yeah.
Arthur, Chante, please come on up.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chante Johnson, and I am one of the farmers with Mudbone Grown. Arthur right here is the other part of Mudbone Grown. And we've been farming for the past 7 years, but we are Oregon homegrown. So our families have been farming here. We learned a lot from our grandparents. And for us, we come from working people. And we really value our elders, and everything that we learned, we can attribute that to our ancestors and to our grandmothers in particular. So for the past, I would say 7 or 8 years, we stepped away from our jobs to pursue farming full time. Our families thought we were crazy, because why would you want to go to farming when you have these good county jobs and truck driving and things like that? And so, over the past 7 or 8 years, I've heard people talk a lot about partnerships. Well, we have a lot of partnerships, and initially when we were looking for land, we lived in Portland, and partnered with the Oregon Food Bank to create this Beginning Farmers of Color training program. And so over the past 7 years, we've created 3 agricultural training programs. One that was focused on Black, Indigenous, POC farmers to get more folks into agriculture and create a pipeline, and help them look at creating agricultural businesses. We did a Boots to Roots program, training our local veterans, partnering with the local Portland VA for about a year. And then our last program was Pathways to Farming, training Black, Indigenous, POC farmers on how to create their own agricultural businesses. I'm happy to say that a lot of those farmers are out in community doing amazing things and started things like Come Through Market. They're herbalists, they're flower farmers, and also vegetable farmers, and doing a lot of mutual aid work. Mudbone Grown itself does a lot of mutual aid work. What we focus on is doing community-supported agriculture programs. So we've partnered with places like Multnomah County Health Department, Brown Girl Rise, Hollow Mentors, and even schools to do school field trips and things like that, because we really believe in working intergenerationally. We both come from large families. We're both the oldest of 6, so that makes it interesting on the farm for us. And we both have together we have 6 children. And our value is that we wanted our children to be able to learn how to farm and to take care of themselves and our family, and have the same kind of lifestyle, camping, being outdoors, hiking, those kind of things that everybody loves about Oregon, right? Being out in nature. We wanted to share that with our children. And the community really stood up and said, you know what? It's not just for you. We want to come along too. So needless to say, we moved out to Corbett probably about 5 years ago and started farming out there. And it's been a really amazing experience. We went from farming about 2 acres to 19 acres. So it was a huge difference from growing food in the city to now growing it in a rural space. And we really enjoy it and love it. It's a beautiful place to live, and been able to grow community locally with a lot of there's over 30 farmers out there in Corbett that are doing some amazing work. Our nonprofit that we just recently launched is going to be taking over a lot of our programming that Mudbone Grown has been doing. And so our nonprofit arm called Feed 'em Freedom Foundation is creating a pipeline into agriculture for Black youth. And what that looks like is creating greenhouse management training programs, looking at food waste, using anaerobic digesters to create compost teas. We're really focused on workforce development, and also looking at growing food through hydroponics. And so we really have a passion and a love for agriculture, and we can see ourselves doing this for the rest of our lives. It's really, our grandmothers have really installed in us this value around serving others. Sorry. I don't mean to get emotional, but our elders mean the world to us. And so during COVID and during some of the mutual aid work, it was important to us to serve them in the way of giving food boxes. And so we partnered with the local Black churches to be able to do that. And to see the elders smile on their face, to think like, oh, they're shut in, they're isolated, they're shut in, they can't be with family. And just to see the happiness of being able to give them flowers and create meals. We worked with Art's his mother, to be able to do these tailor meals, because sometimes when you get food boxes, you get this mix match stuff, and you're like, I don't know what to do with this. There's funky green beans and maybe some turkey meat if you're maybe if you get there. But it's just random items. And so we worked with her to really create something that was tailor-made for that population. So we do the gamut. We have a lot of different programs, from having school-age kids come out to our farm, working with Blueprint Foundation, Hollow Mentors, getting into schools. It's really important that we look at the whole family unit. And so when you're thinking about budgets and matching your values with the budget, it's really important that you invest in the community that is already serving and the organizations that are already doing the work. And so for farmers across the board, a lot of what we need is access to land. Land is just crazy expensive, right? We don't own our land on the 19 acres, but we hope to one day. Infrastructure. So during COVID, what we saw was a lot of folks were like, hey, we need 500 boxes of food, right, in 1 week. And we're like, we're this small farm. 19 acres is small compared to a lot of other farms across the state. And we weren't able to meet that demand right away. And it was because we didn't have the necessary infrastructure. It's very important that we are able to invest in tractors, wash and pack stations, tools, high tunnels, things like that, for our farmers that are small farmers, so that they can scale up to meet some of these food security demands. So thank you so much for the invitation today.
Folks do that. Where can they go?
Oh, where can they go? They can go to our website at mudbonegrown.com, or you can find us at feedemfreedom.org. And check us out that way and support. We have volunteer opportunities, so there's not just monetary gifts that you can give, but you can also be engaged with coming out on the farm, installing some drip tape with us, planting. Probably a couple of weeks ago, we planted like 4,000 broccoli and got them in the ground with just 10 people. And so there's a lot we can do with just a few people. So thank you for your time. I feel honored to be with you all today and hear about all your great work. Thank you.
Chante, Arthur, thank you so much for welcoming me this morning. You can see why I spent a little more time out there than I had originally planned, but it was amazing, beautiful, a lot of fun. I just sort of lost track. Mudbone Grown, check them out. The Urban League staff is going to come out, and we're going to do some volunteer shifts ourselves. So we're looking forward to doing that. One other organization that I want to introduce you to, although some of you will already know about this organization. So we have another speaker who's going to come up. We're joined by Lillia Lachino, who works with the Next Door as a project coordinator for the Mid-Columbia Health Equity Advocates. Mid-Columbia Equity Advocates is a regional coalition which seeks to support local community-driven and culturally specific activities which reduce health disparities. This work is represented by its subgroups consisting of Abogadores de la Comunidad, Latinos en Acción, and Natives along the Big River. Liliana, if you would tell us more about your work and the impact that your organization is making, we'd certainly appreciate it.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Lillia Lachino. Can you guys hear me? Okay. My name is Lillia Lachino, pronouns she, her, ella, and I am the coordinator for MECHEA, which stands for Mid-Columbia Health Equity Advocates at the Next Door. Within MECHEA, there are 3 community leadership groups, like it was mentioned right now. Abogadores de la Comunidad, advocates for the community, which they are primarily in the Dalles in Wasco County, and Natives Along the Big River, NABER, which is Native American group that is across Cascade Locks to Celilo Village, so along the Columbia River, and Latinos en Acción, Latins in Action, and they are primarily focused here in Hood River County. I'm just going to mention a little bit of their priorities, but the program and focus of MECHEA is basically policy, system, and environmental changes. For instance, for Natives Along the Big River, NABER, they are advocating for heating and cooling resources, especially during summer times and winter, which is when the temperature drops and summer the temperature rises, and also access to clean water for cooking, showering, and other essential activities that we do with water. Latinos en Acción and Abogadores de la Comunidad, they are advocating for language equity in the Oregon driver's license written exams, because there has been a high high voice in the community, saying that it's hard passing those exams because of the language inequities. The language grade level that are used in these exams are higher than the language level in English version. So this is just something that, and there's so many other priorities that they're also working on, but that's just a little bit of a sneak peek of what MCHEA is and what it focuses on. We've had several meetings with ODOT, which is Oregon Department of Transportation, to voice our barriers that our community is facing, and also brainstorm on possible solutions that they can address. So if you or your organization or business, or even you individually, are interested in helping our communities get proper access to clean water, or even like safety, home safety, like fire hydrants, or even being allies for us in supporting our work with language equity at DMV, like, feel free to contact us. Like I said, my name is Lillia, and I work for The Next Door, and you can find us on the internet at thenextdoorinc.org. Also, I'm happy to share my contact information. I'll be here if you're interested in that as well. And thank you all for allowing us to be here and sharing a little bit about our work. Thank you, and have a good rest of the afternoon.
Thank you, Liliana. Thank you, Chante and Arthur. Folks, it's a delight for me to be able to highlight local community organizations, because that, frankly, is something that the Urban League is all about. Reaching out and being able to be in touch. For those folks who are watching streaming, you'll see in the chat links to these organizations so that you can find out more about them and how to give, support, volunteer, or just frankly spread the news about their good works, because that's something that's really important for us. We don't tend to have big marketing budgets at not-for-profit organizations. We're going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for your time and for engaging with us. And I really also want to give appreciation to my staff. They had the opportunity to talk with folks here, in the, both Rotarians, but also in the community, to learn more about your needs, wants, wishes, and hopes. And although we haven't been able to delve into some of those issues today, it's been very informative for us as the Urban League continues to expand its programs, but also its civic engagement. The work we do, the voice with which we speak, it is a regional one. There are Black folks in every community, every county in Oregon, and in every city in Oregon. And our reach is for those folks, but also for others who have the same shared goals. So it means a lot to us that you would be kind enough to share your thoughts and ideas with us. Janet, I'm going to hand the microphone to you so that you can say a few words, and then Mayor McBride will close out with you, if you will. I just want to say that I was a Rotary kid. For when I was in high school, and I forget about it sometimes. I remember the experience very clearly, but I got to remind myself, oh yeah, y'all are Rotary. Listen, a big fan. Used to participate in some entrepreneurial camps, basically. I want to say classes, but they were super fun. And had Rotary mentors, and were invited to come to Rotary lunches. And I am still a big old nerd. That was fun for me. It was interesting for me. So seeing you all here today, it does not surprise me that you would want to engage in a kind of a conversation like this with us, because my memory of Rotarians was very much about reaching out, learning something new, spending time with folks who weren't necessarily part of their existing network, but that they wanted to stand with us and to bring us in so that we could learn more about you too. So my fond teenage memories of Rotarians certainly extends to all of you today. Thank you so much for having us. Janet, if you would, please.
Sure. Well, thank you also. Thanks for coming out to the Gorge and for inviting us to sit with you. And, it's always great to learn about new potential partners. And we do very, very similar work. So it's just great to be able to know about other established and recognized organizations like the Urban League. So, yeah, thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much for inviting me to sit here, and hopefully I know everything you have presented a lot of it's new. It's new to me, probably new to a lot of Rotarians. Hopefully I've imparted some additional information about what the city's doing for you and for the audience here. I'm sure you all have heard some of little pieces of different things, but we are just put in a plug. We are hybrid now. We are on YouTube, Zoom, and in person. So you can listen to your city council meeting and you can have input. So please give us your input if you have any. We have lots of different subjects you'd probably be interested in, and it's really easy to get involved now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you also to our community partner, Open Signal, another not-for-profit organization, and they help us to stream so that we can reach you folks who are elsewhere. We appreciate you for joining us on that platform, and we appreciate our partners for making it possible for us to use this bit of technology. This is the first in-person town hall that we have done, so I appreciate y'all for letting us work out some of the kinks on you. Thanks. We will certainly be back to have more conversations with you in person. In the meantime, though, you can find us at ulpdx.org, ulpdx.org. Urban Leaguers, my team, we are in the room now. Some of us are going to hang out for a while, so feel free to come up and say hi if you wish, but don't feel like you have to, because I know it's already been a chunk of time that you have spent with us. Again, I'm Nkenge Harmon Johnson, the Chief Executive of the Urban League of Portland, and I'm grateful for your time today. Thanks so much for joining us.